we are live on Stockton 360 on KXVS, the voice of Stockton. Soon to be on 92.1 FM, but broadcasting live on the voiceofstockton.org. This is Governor Don.
And Dustin Details Brakebill.
Mr. Details. How are you, sir?
Good, good, good.
So, Democratic Convention, that was this week, huh?
Let's just say Democrats know how to put on a party more than the Republicans lately.
Yeah, I think that's fair
and
to say.
Some Republicans have said that. One of them is Morning Joe, which I became a big fan of recently.
Yeah.
And he tends to say, "Hey, look at what the Democrats have done, and look at what the Republicans." And he's a Republican, and we basically suck at throwing parties right now when we used to have great parties.
Well, you know, they are the party, but not the party of parties. Apparently, apparently that's the Democratic Party. At least that's what the word is. I think there's something else though that well we'll talk about it. We'll get to it.
Yeah, we'll get to it.
Yeah, you got a few clips we got lined up.
Yeah,
one thing.
Yeah, Michelle Obama's great speech the other night, and
yes.
Then we'll play a little way back. Yeah, we were supposed to play this yesterday, but way back Wednesday, Barack Obama made his debut 12 years ago.
Yes,
yesterday
that's
to the
right.
American public.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Then State Senator Obama.
That's right.
Ran for Senate in Illinois, won
Junior
that.
senator.
And then became the president of the United States a couple years after that.
Yeah, because it was just
4 years later after that.
Bam! It's like, hi, how are you? I'm president.
Yeah.
Yes, not quite what Hillary Clinton has gone through. I think she's been trying to work her coronation for the last, I don't know, decade or more.
12 years, probably.
Yes, indeed. So, but there has been, I thought it was quite hilarious. One hilarious point, we might as well talk about it since it happened before the convention. To me, it's totally hilarious. Last week at the Republican convention, there was a little bit of a, what do you call, tweet snark? I don't know. But Debbie Wasserman Schultz was tweeting Reince Priebus, and I think let me pull up the tweet here. Let's see here. She says she sends him a tweet last week because, you know, the convention, the Republican convention, was kind of wild, and her tweet says, "Hey Reince, I'm in Cleveland if you need another chair to help keep your convention in order."
Ooh.
Before the Democratic convention even starts, Debbie Wasserman Schultz resigns. Now, if you didn't already know about the whole DNC leaks, hashtag DNC leaks scandal, Wikileaks released nearly 20,000 of the Democratic Party's emails. In these emails were many, many instances of the Democratic Party basically sabotaging Bernie Sanders' campaign.
These emails are hard to deny. So
yes, they have yet to deny them. And instead of addressing the contents of the emails, instead we saw two things. Number one, Debbie Wasserman Schultz resigns. Then they start blaming the Russians. Yes, because I'm sure the Russians are the reason why they totally sabotaged Bernie Sanders' campaign, right? So there is some spin there, and it's been picked up by alternative media, but mainstream media seems to be falling for the spin. Like, that's all I'm hearing all week is, oh, Russia's big involvement in trying to control American politics and trying to alter the outcome of the election, but amazingly enough, what I'm not hearing is talk about how the Democratic Party is the one that's actually trying to alter the election.
And have you noticed now more talk rhetoric the last couple of days is attacking Donald Trump on Russia because of his, well, let's say Donald Trump's big mouth. Yeah. And now his campaign is kind of not free-falling, but hey, it's basically taken away what his message was trying to say. And now it's about basically Donald Trump. He likes Russia, doesn't he? He likes Vladimir Putin, who kills journalists and who kills political rivals.
Well, Trump was making the same kind of comments, that he said, hey, maybe I would kill a few journalists,
which
depending on what they said. He was so bold as to say if he went to kill somebody on the streets of New York City, that no one would do anything. Now, that's big talk. Yeah, of course, that is the kind of I guess Putin-like talk. But to me, it's wild. It's wildly wild. It's just.
It's the Wild Wild West right now.
But it's ridiculous that is the talk. Look, think about this. This scandal is not about Trump or Putin. This scandal is about the Democratic Party rigging and committing election fraud. And I'm going to tell you what I mean by election fraud. They obviously rigged the election. They obviously set Bernie Sanders up for failure. Of course, conversely setting Hillary Clinton up for success. But on top of that, the whole time saying, oh, we're totally neutral. We're totally unbiased. Debbie Wasserman Schultz come out on national television.
And I'll always say it, the Democratic National Committee can't have a politician in charge.
Yeah.
They could have somebody in the political game, like a Michael Steele, like a Reince Priebus.
Yeah.
But they cannot have a politician in charge. And I think this is where it's going to happen now because of this. And the last 3 people in charge of the Democratic National Committee, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, a Hillary supporter.
Yeah. Was it
Tim Kaine?
Tim Kaine, now the vice president. I wonder how that happened.
Well, he was an Obama guy. That's why Obama gave him that position basically after 2008. Yeah.
Who was before Kaine? It wasn't Dean?
No, it was the Los Angeles mayor, Antonio. I always forget his last name.
That's right.
But yeah, so he was a Hillary supporter too. So I just think it needs to make some changes, and I think we're seeing that going to happen in the next couple of years.
But why is it that now this whole thing is about a rigged election? And I'm going to tell you what I mean by election fraud. Here's where the election fraud happened. And I'm looking through here, and I'm looking to see how much money did Bernie Sanders' campaign bring in? Over $100 million, right? So he brings in a ton of money. And the people who donated to Bernie Sanders' campaign, they believed that Bernie Sanders had a chance. That's why they donated. But all those donations amounted to nothing because the DNC was going to rig this election and was actively rigging the election. So that's fraud. That's defrauding all those people who donated. That's defrauding all the people who voted. And as bad as it is that you would do this to a candidate, a non-toxic candidate, unlike Hillary Clinton, she's obviously highly toxic. They spent this whole week trying to paint her in a non-toxic paint, like washable Crayolas. Unfortunately, the truth is still the truth. And we got, we literally had live fact-checking from the whole of the earth. The speakers weren't even done speaking before the facts were checked and posted on the internet. So we got a bunch of information, but tons of people voted for Bernie Sanders, and their votes, and tons of people donated to Bernie Sanders, and their money was useless. So all those people were defrauded out of their money. And all those voters, as bad as it is that they would do this to a candidate like Bernie Sanders, who you could say whatever you want, but this guy spent his whole life in the political career fighting for the little guy, fighting for the underdog, fighting for those whose rights are always violated. He was for LGBT rights before he was popular, even though it took Hillary Clinton until after it was popular to come along on board. But this guy has been in this fight. He's for like forever. And so, it's bad enough that they cheated him from the nomination. But what's worse is the 13 million people who voted for him. What's also worse is the millions of other people who would have voted for him had this election not been rigged. Now, she only won by, a few million votes. And, I mean, it seems like a lot, but most of that time, if not all of that time, was this unfair playing field. This unfair advantage given to Hillary Clinton. And so Debbie Wasserman Schultz resigns, but then where does she go? She instantly was hired by the Hillary Clinton campaign to be her campaign manager.
And that's not a shocker because she made all that money in 2008 for Hillary, and we always knew she was a Hillary supporter, and it's been out there, and I don't know why the Democratic National Committee basically let this go on for all of this time, having somebody who openly basically campaign for a person every time they run for a major election.
Yeah.
and they let her or him, whoever's in charge at that time.
Yeah.
And I think also Debbie Wasserman Schultz is a congresswoman in Florida.
Yeah.
And I believe the district she represents is one of the most liberal in Florida. Mm-hmm. And she brings in a lot of money for Hillary too there.
Yeah.
So this is why it's happening, and no shocker that she's moving to the Clinton campaign now.
Tim Canova, what's that mean?
What does it mean?
Tim Canova is the person running against Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
Oh, who's a Bernie guy?
Bernie guy. And the polls are now showing that Tim Canova has got what they call a bump. Mm-hmm. I wonder where that came from.
A spike in the polls.
A spike in the polls. The Observer reports Clinton rewards Wasserman Schultz shady behavior with a new job. DWS, which is Debbie Wasserman Schultz, will continue to push the corrupt brand of politics she perfected as DNC chair, according to Mike Sonato of the Observer. So, yes, the instant that Debbie Wasserman Schultz resigns, she not only does she get awarded as the honorary chair to Clinton's 50-state program, she was actually replaced by Donna Brazile, who has been on MSNBC and CNN all election cycle advocating for Hillary Clinton and saying that she's impartial. And I got some some video of that. I wasn't able to pull it up in time for the show, but I got some old video that I happened to have been saving all year, and I actually have her literally Hillarating on as a pundit, mm-hmm. even though she's supposed to be neutral in the DNC.
Yeah.
So she's no better. She's the same kind of mess that we're getting out of the Democratic Party. I mean, what does this say for what does it say to the rest of the world when we're supposed to be the shining example of democracy, and the party named after democracy, the Democratic Party, is committing all this essentially election fraud?
Yeah, it's crazy right now. And
yeah,
where do you think all these Bernie supporters will end up?
Well, here's where I know. After seeing what happened at the convention, and if you watch the rosy picture that was painted on mainstream media, if you took a look at that and you saw, it looks like unity. We actually had some insiders there, and and if you're paying attention to Facebook Live, you got to see that there was a big walkout. The news reported 150 people, but we got footage of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of empty seats, whole sections empty after the walkout. And that walkout happened when Hillary Clinton was getting nominated. So this is a fraction of the party. This is something that they should have seen coming. And I keep hearing and reading these people and these just spoon-fed comments of, well, if you don't vote for Hillary, then you're the reason why Donald Trump is going to be president. No, Democratic Party, you had a candidate that you cheated out of the election that beat Donald Trump by double digits all year long. Still is beating Donald Trump by double digits. There's actually a poll out that still shows Bernie Sanders just knocking Donald Trump out of the running. And that's if he were, somehow to get the nomination. So they had the candidate that the people favored, and instead of doing that, they stacked the deck against him. They, had all these superdelegate choices announced already, which basically, makes people kind of want to back the winning horse, so to speak. And so if Donald Trump becomes the president, it's not because of Bernie Sanders supporters not voting for Hillary. It's because of the DNC defrauding the American people and defrauding and rigging the election against Bernie Sanders. Look, here's what I'm saying. It's possible Hillary Clinton would have won. It's possible. But when we look at all the other election fraud, like the things that went on as far as people being wiped off the voters' rolls, we saw evidence in the emails that they had polls closed, 2/3 of polls closed in Rhode Island, in Arizona, state after state. And I got some numbers that's. And I'm trying to see let me see if I can source them. But there's a number of people on the internet talking about these numbers that they show that only the states that have electronic voting without a paper trail. Those are the states that Hillary Clinton won in.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's the chance, the numerical odds of Hillary Clinton only winning in states that have no paper trail or something like 1 in billions. So it's just unlikely that this happened by coincidence. You know, there's this thing called fractional voting, and we saw fractional voting happen in let me see, Kentucky, I believe. Kentucky? No. Yes. So how does fractional voting work? So how this is when someone votes for one candidate, instead of getting 1 point, they get like 1.1 points. And if they vote for the other candidate, instead of getting 1 point, that other candidate gets 0.9 points. And the way you can prove fractional voting is that as the numbers of voters increase, there is a smooth progression of separation between the voting, and you could see evidence of fractional voting, which happened in several states. So this brand of election fraud, of rigging, I don't understand why we're hearing people talk about Russia. You know, if there was nothing to report, there would be nothing to report. This is a violation of American democratic principles. This is an embarrassment in front of the whole world stage. Our own U.S. elections wouldn't be considered fair elections by our own rules. Now, we would never. If there was another country electing a president the way we are, it'd be declared undemocratic. It'd be declared rigged. And just because it's here in our country, I think we shouldn't accept it. You know, this is the place. This is what we call the birthplace of democracy. Of course, it's not, but that's how we think of our country, and that's how other people think of our country. And if this is the brand of democracy we're selling to the rest of the world, well, what's the difference then? You know, it makes it hard to show why what we're doing is better and why our form of government is better. You know, I mean, obviously, you know, we all believe it is, but we're trying to make the case for the rest of the world that, hey, you should change your form of government to this form of government. Mm-hmm. But what are we doing? Now, at the very least, we could say, as far as the Republicans, Donald Trump did not seem to be the favorite of the establishment.
No.
But he won anyway. Why? Because it was a relatively fair process, as evidenced by exit polls, which we could talk about. And yet, Donald Trump still won the nomination. Now, people could be unhappy about it here or there. But the fact is that was a legitimate win.
Yes.
Whereas Secretary Clinton won by rigging the election.
And I think another thing that the party is going to look at, the Democratic Party, is the superdelegate. And I think that it's going to happen very, very soon, right after this election takes place.
Right.
I think they're going to change the rules because they do this every year. They have a thing called a autopsy, basically. The Republicans did it in 2012 after Mitt Romney lost. And I think the Democrats are going to do the same and see what went wrong or what went wrong. No matter whoever wins, both parties do it. So it's going to be interesting to see when that comes out. And before we go to break, one more thing. Third parties.
Oh, yeah.
Gary Johnson, 13% right now in polls. I haven't checked the latest polls.
Yes.
The Libertarian candidate, former governor of New Mexico, Republican governor of New Mexico.
Yeah.
And Jill Steiner on the Green Party is basically climbing up there, trying to get those Bernie supporters right now. Right.
And we're seeing an increase in that. And we'll talk about that when we come back from break. You are listening to Stockton 360 on KXVS, the voice of Stockton, soon to be on 92.1 FM, broadcasting live from the voice of Stockton.org. This is Governor Don.
Dustin Brakebill.
And we are going to be right back. Stick around after a brief break. Stay tuned.
Richard Slezak on KXVS here at Stone Soup Studio, and I am the voice of Stockton. You can be the voice of Stockton too. To be part of KXVS, the Voice of Stockton, go to our website, thevoiceofstockton.org, to find out more information on how you can be a part of KXVS, the Voice of Stockton. Your voice is our voice, the Voice of Stockton. Right here on 92.1 FM. Coming soon.
Coming soon.
On your FM dial.
92.1
KXVS.
All right, we are back, Stockton 360 live on KXVS, the Voice of Stockton. Broadcasting live at thevoiceofstockton.org, soon to be on 92.1 FM. We are all the way live right here. This is Governor Don.
Dustin Brakebill.
I want to give a shout out to our news director, Professor Dr. Mario Jimenez, who I hear she's driving through the Donner Pass, historically dangerous. So be careful, drive safe out there.
History tells us.
Yes, history tells us that you should bring an extra bag lunch. And going through, and we shouldn't joke about it.
Yeah.
It was a tragedy, but it won't be a tragedy for our own doctor. Drive safe, get back safe. All right, we were talking about this this Democratic convention and a Republican convention from last week.
And it had the heavy hitters last night in the Democratic convention.
Big heavy hitters. But one thing that you mentioned before we went to break was the bump in the polls for the so-called third parties. Which is really a third and fourth party. So here's what we're looking at right now as far as the percentages. Gary Johnson of the Libertarian Party is at 10% now, according to the latest Wall Street Journal poll. Jill Stein bumped all the way up to 6%.
Ooh.
That is a doubling of her.
2 to 3%.
Yes, 3 to 6%. And we know what that's from. We know that's from Bernie Sanders supporters. Jumping the gate and jumping the broom with the Green Party. So, and we saw the DEMEXIT happen. We saw it live on Facebook. They showed a little bit on mainstream media, but they really did a great job covering it up.
Yeah, and the California
delegation
was pretty lively.
Yeah, big shout out to Mota Kazuma Sanchez, who's also been giving us inside reports. We've been following him on Facebook, and his live videos have been quite telling. We saw that they're confiscating signs that say Bernie on them, and so they're people out there are I guess they're forced to modify signs. Right now, actually they're modifying the Hillary signs that are going up. But think about how major this is now. Jill Stein gets a 100% bump in the past couple weeks. Now, Johnson of the Libertarian Party looks like he was actually at 12%. So I don't know if 10% is a bump or not, because according to the Wall Street Journal, he's at 10%, and I don't have his numbers in the last Wall Street Journal poll, but we heard he was at 12%.
Yeah, 12%, 13% up there.
Yeah, and Jill Stein all the way up at 6%, and Clinton and Trump in a virtual tie. Now, if we look at it as a two-party race, then we have like a 13% undecided. But if we look at it as it is, which is an open contest, right? And people, they will be able to vote on the other parties in most states. I believe Libertarians on all the ballots, and Green Party is just short. And I don't think that they'll be able to make it on all the ballots. On all the states' ballots, but they might, and they are definitely fighting for that. But I think it's quite telling to see numbers like 10% for the Libertarian Party, 6% for Jill Stein, and in this breakdown, only 7% undecided. But here's what we've been seeing, and here's what we continue to see. Hillary Clinton's numbers have almost never gone up. They have started at somewhere around 70%, 70% and have steadily declined every month that she's been running. And a lot of that has to do with just people having access to information. I mean, we live in a modern internet age, so when we hear, information, people can double check it.
Yes, and it's pretty amazing what polls can tell you here and there. It's going to be interesting, because I think August is a dead month because of the Olympics and other stuff going on.
Olympics.
So it tends to pick up towards September, late September. Then October, of course. Then November's right around the corner doing push-ups.
Now, when we talk about August, because we have this Olympics in Rio. Now, think about what's going to happen. The positive spins won't gain traction. But what will happen during that month is they'll be the Trump campaign will be doing more digging. The the Clinton campaign will be doing more digging, and they're going to find more negative stuff about each other. And what happens when a candidate does negative campaigning? Their numbers take a hit too.
And you're going to have people like President Obama who's going to be coming out and speaking, which last night was pretty amazing.
Oh, yeah, he had a great speech.
Joe Biden, who's going to go after the blue-collar workers.
Who
basically says that's what the Democrats are losing right now, the blue-collar workers. The white males, they're losing them to Trump right now.
Right.
And who's going to go try to save the day for the Democrats? It's good old Uncle Joe, who says he's never met a police officer that hasn't liked him, basically.
He said, come on, man.
Come on, yeah. And last night, it was pretty telling. He went on at 9:30 p.m. Eastern time.
Yeah.
That's prime time.
Sure enough.
And it went later in the night. When you have somebody like Joe Biden going on at 9:30, then you have Tim Kaine. Tim Kaine. Then you have President Obama. It's a late night.
Sure is.
And President Obama closed the door last night, and some people are comparing him to Ronald Reagan now because of that speech.
I think, and
they're saying there's a revolution coming to the Democratic Party because of President Obama.
Well, he gave a great speech. Even Bill Clinton gave a great speech. Now, of course, if you saw my Facebook post, yes, he gave a great speech, but there are definitely some factual errors in his speech that were brought out. One of the things that that did happen this morning after that speech, I want to pull up the post. There is a man by the name of Dick Morris who actually used to be the insider in the Clinton candidate in the Clinton White House, and he made a post this morning at 9:48. Oh, excuse me, yesterday morning, and in that one calendar day, got over 5 million views on the post. And the name of of his post is, I got to look on his page, I guess. But basically, he was refuting a lot of what former President Clinton was saying. And this is one of the things that I think we're gonna see, because even Michelle Obama, oh my God, her speech was also amazing.
Yes,
just amazing. But here's what I think isn't going to happen. Those speeches were amazing. Michelle Obama killed it. Bernie Sanders had an amazing speech.
3-minute standing applause.
Elizabeth Warren's speech, I think, was less amazing. She had great stuff in it, but to me, her speech was more Clinton pandering. Literally speaking against the stuff that she's been speaking out about. She's the anti-big bank senator, and is now supporting the big bank candidate. So, there's been a lot of pushback from Elizabeth Warren, even though you can't deny her service, But then we had great speeches day before, when the same night that Michelle Obama was up there. And then yesterday, oh, come on.
You had on stage, you had Joe Biden, Michael Bloomberg.
Yep.
Independent, by the way.
Independent.
New Yorker. He'll tell you he's independent. He says he doesn't lean either way, his records show he doesn't lean either way.
Right.
Tim Kaine, who did a pretty good impersonation of Trump on stage, too. Then you had, closing door, President Obama basically gave him one of those landmark speeches like he has always done.
But I don't think – I think here's what I think they were great speeches. But here's what I think really the speeches did. The speeches were great for people who are already supporting Hillary Clinton.
Yes.
I don't think there's much of a conversion factor. There's going to be this first bump, because it always happens. You always get a bump after a convention. But there's too much time. We got over 100 days between now and the election. And this bump is going to disappear quick because there's too much fact-checking going on. There's too much controversy around Secretary Clinton, not just with the her own email travesties, but the DNC email hacking, the voicemail hacks that were released, and Wikileaks says they got a third one coming, another big package of damning information, damning emails or leaks, and I think that it's the Russians, and we got to check on them. I think that's going to fade out. What is the content? This is something that the Republicans are not going to let up on. They are not going to let up on, what is essentially the biggest scandal in the American elections is as far as I can even think of. I can't even think of a more scandalous situation in the entire history of U.S. elections. That is, to me, that's going to float. People are going to be hard pressed to forget about it once all this patting each other on the back wears off, and the awesomeness of the speeches won't be able to be tied to the candidate, is what I'm suggesting.
Yes.
It's just going to be tied to the speech givers. Joe is a hell of a speaker.
Which he basically went off script. But
Barry O is a hell of a speaker.
Mm-hmm.
Michelle Obama has been. We saw her 8 years ago kill it. So she's not just the wife of the president. We're talking about a skilled attorney.
Yes, Princeton graduate.
Princeton. Okay, you don't get in there not knowing how to carry yourself. Okay, so I expected that.
Now people want her to run for office one day.
Oh yeah, to be honest with you, if she had run this time, she would be shoo-in. Too bad they didn't do that. She would have been a shoo-in, impossible to beat. So now you have some clips.
Yes.
Is there something you want to introduce?
Well, let's
set it up.
Let's play first the Michelle Obama every morning speech of her comment, and let's listen to that, and we'll get some feedback from Gov after that.
All right.
The story of generations of people who felt the lash of bondage, the shame of servitude, the sting of segregation, but who kept on striving and hoping and doing what needed to be done so that today I wake up every morning in a house that was built by slaves.
And that was pretty remarkable, her speech giving. And then we have one more to the bullies one, I believe.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Let's hear that one. Up one, Donte. Nope. Yeah. Here it is.
My daughters, two beautiful, intelligent black young women, playing with their dogs on the White House lawn. So, don't let anyone ever tell you that this country isn't great. That somehow we need to make it great again, because this right now is the greatest country on earth.
That was Michelle Obama, and then she had a pretty other remarkable one. I don't have the clip with me right now, but basically take the high when bullies go when they go low, we go high.
Yeah.
So it was pretty amazing. And then you know what? 12 years ago yesterday, President Obama made his national debut in front of millions worldwide in Boston, and the clip Donte has it right there. It's under Way Back Wednesday, and it was supposed to be played yesterday, but we'll play it on Throwback Thursday today.
Yeah, let's do it.
Here it goes.
It's Way Back Wednesday on Stockton 360.
Thursday.
I stand here knowing that my story is part of the larger American story, that I owe a debt to all of those who came before me, and that in no other country on earth is my story even possible. Summed up in a declaration made over 200 years ago. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That is the true genius of America. If there is a child on the south side of Chicago who can't read, that matters to me even if it's not my child. If there's a senior citizen somewhere who can't pay for their prescription drugs and having to choose between medicine and the rent, that makes my life poorer, even if it's not my grandparent. If there's an Arab American family being rounded up without benefit of an attorney or due process, that threatens my civil liberties. It is that fundamental belief. It is that fundamental belief. I am my brother's keeper. I am my sister's keeper that makes this country work. It's what allows us to pursue our individual dreams and yet still come together as one American family. E pluribus unum, out of many, one. There is not a liberal America and a conservative America. There is the United States of America. There is not a black America and a white America and Latino America and Asian America. There's the United States of America. The pundits like to slice and dice our country into red states and blue states. Red states for Republicans, blue states for Democrats. But I've got news for them too. We worship an awesome God in the blue states, and we don't like federal agents poking around in our libraries in the red states. We coach Little League in the blue states, and yes, we've got some gay friends in the red states. There are patriots who opposed the war in Iraq, and there are patriots who supported the war in Iraq. We are one people, all of us pledging allegiance to the Stars and Stripes, all of us defending the United States of America.
That was from C-SPAN, President Obama, 12 years ago, 2004, 2,297 words. Then the other clips were from MSNBC. So.
Yeah. Now, so I mean that's quite telling, you know, and the stuff he's saying you can't deny. No. I mean, you also can't deny that his entire duration in office was like half the country was trying to prove all of those things wrong.
50% approval rating.
Yes, which is a 50% disapproval rating,
yes.
right? So
which is pretty high.
So we got great clips too, but you started off with Michelle Obama, and I think that those were definitely some emotional clips. I think that that struck a note with many people. I don't know how much that literally correlates to Hillary Clinton. Yes, because Hillary Clinton, Michelle Obama's kids can, and so can people all around the country know and accept that yes, a woman could become president. And of course, no disrespect to Shirley Chisholm, who ran for presidency in the was it the 70s, 60s might have been. Jill Stein is, this is her second time running for president, but we're talking about a major political party. We've not seen a nominee for president that was a woman yet until this week. So yes, definitely historic, but there is so much surrounding the Clintons and their impropriety. So much about when we heard this scandal break, and we saw that Debbie Wasserman Schultz got fired or resigned. When Hillary Clinton rehired her, that is the true colors of the campaign. That's the true colors of the Clinton camp. Somebody got fired for being crooked, and so they just hired her. And so that, I think, is going to read more. These speeches rock, and you can't take that and anything away from them. But these speeches are going to be less and less tied to Hillary Clinton as the weeks go on, because the truth is Bernie Sanders lost a lot of gas. Some estimates, up to 50% of his supporters have jumped ship, but at least 25% of them. We saw Jill Stein actually at the convention, holding rallies with hundreds and hundreds of people. During the Dem exit, during the walkout, Jill Stein actually was there walking out with them. And so this, I think, is going to, and here's what people should think about. And it's even now, even after Joe Biden says, "Hey man, come on, you guys, come on, man. Don't dog the Bernie Sanders supporters." And even after President Obama said, "Hey, that's how we should be," even after that, they're still getting disrespected, getting told to shut up and fall in line, and being insulted at every turn. Not just now, but the whole entire campaign. You know, and now we see where that was coming from. That was coming from Hillary Clinton. That was coming from the Democratic National Committee. So I can't, you know, these speeches were great. The convention was exciting. It was a great party, but it just wasn't real. And I think that is going to weigh more. It's not going to weigh more today, but next week, the week after, it's going to come out. And, you know, Hillary Clinton has not grown and raised in the polls. Her numbers have just gone down and gone down. It's like this. The more you know about her, the more people get to know her, the less popular she becomes. And that is toxic. Mm-hmm. And that is not progressive. And that is not a recipe for winning. So I think we just might have seen right here what happened at this convention may very well have ushered in Donald Trump presidency.
It's gonna, time will tell, and just these heavy hitters this week they've been pretty good, I think, for Hillary so far. So let's see where it goes from more of these releases if that happens, and what the public's take on this, and see where it goes from here, because it's going to be pretty interesting very soon.
So here we got again the Wall Street Journal's poll today. Hillary Clinton's record of being dishonest, serious enough to be a concern to 69% of the people polled. Made the wrong decisions on foreign policy, serious enough to be a concern to 61% of the people. Represents political establishment and won't make the changes the country needs, 61% concerned about that. Too close to Wall Street firms and dependent on their contributions to hold them accountable, 60%. Now listen to Trump's high unfavorable numbers. Too volatile and lacks the right temperament for the job, 65% of pollsters are seriously concerned about that. Statements are offensive and intolerant. 64% of people are concerned about that. Changes his position on issues and lacks core principles and beliefs. 61% of the people in the Wall Street Journal poll concerned about that. Businesses like Trump University reveal record of taking advantage of others for his own financial gain. 60% of people concerned about that. We literally have the two lowest favorable candidates for president in the United States in the history of our country. Mm-hmm. And we are all being told to shut up and take it. Just, you know, pick your poison. And I think that, yes, when there were 12% of Americans who were independents, that might have worked. But right now, the vast majority of the country, over 40% of the country, is independent. That's a minority of the country is either a Republican or a Democrat. So I think that we might see something different. Now, if Trump wins the presidency, you know, the DNC has nobody to blame but themselves. Mm-hmm. They had a candidate, and even now still polls higher than Hillary Clinton. So, you know, all this rhetoric we're hearing about it's the Russians to blame, no. About Bernie's to blame, no. Come on. When you're dishonest, when you get caught being dishonest, why not say, oh, you know what, we were dishonest. You know, we should have done differently, and you know what, we're going to do differently. You know, we don't even have commitments on their platforms. You know, I mean, yes, they said that they're going to, you know, not support the TPP, and then Tim Kaine becomes a vice presidential pick, Mr. TPP. All right. Oh yeah, we're going to rein in Wall Street. Tim Kaine is Mr. Wall Street, and of course Hillary Clinton, Mrs. Wall Street. So, you know, we have people that people can't trust in both parties, and this doesn't bode well for our democracy. But here's where I think is the light at the end of the tunnel. You know, we do have a three-tier government. Mm-hmm. We have the judicial, the legislative, and the executive, and so Congress and, you know, the Senate and the House, you know, either one of these candidates, you know, they're gonna have a big job ahead of them. You know, literally stopping these whoever's the next president from screwing up the country. And
could we see a president basically, say if it's Donald Trump, and you have Congress who's Republican, the majority? Yeah. Could we see them block their own candidate and do stuff like that? Probably not, but
I think we
Paul
can.
Ryan's been very skeptical.
Here's why I know we are going to see them block their own candidate. Because right now their candidate is against a Democrat. Once the candidate is no longer against a Democrat and he's just the president, then they can block him. They could block him because they could say what they said about Bernie. He's not a real Democrat. They could say, well, Donald Trump, he's not a real Republican.
And look at Donald's history of voting.
Sure.
Lifelong Democrat.
Lifelong Democrat.
Big supporter of Hillary.
He'll be easy to block.
A couple years ago.
He'll be easy to block. You know, yes, he might get us into some trouble with his big mouth and rhetoric, but, you know, the things, and this is what I've heard, and it's making me think, hey, the things you're afraid of Donald Trump doing, Hillary Clinton has already done a lot of those things. Big time war hawk. You know, Donald Trump is definitely less aggressive on the international front than Hillary Clinton. So it's going to be quite interesting to see. I'm glad this week is over because it's just too much. But like I said, I don't think this bump is going to last. I think those awesome speeches and that awesome presentation is not going to be associated with Hillary Clinton for very long. I think that she's just so toxic. That and just like Donald Trump, he could have really done great this week, you know, if he had spun the Russian stuff just like the DNC was spinning it, you know. But instead, he shoots himself in the foot. Kind of makes me wonder: am I right about what I said before? That maybe Donald Trump is a plant intended to make sure Hillary Clinton wins. It sure looks more and more possible.
And yeah, and I think the show's coming to an end, so it's gonna.
I'm sick and tired of this rigged establishment politics. Okay.
What do you think we see from Hillary tonight?
Oh. More of the same. I'm awesome. I'm winning. I'm winning. Okay. So I won't. I would love to be surprised by Secretary Clinton. I don't think I will be. But hey, here's just to say, yes, whatever you might feel, get out there and vote. Vote your conscience. Vote what your heart says. We live in a state that, you know, is probably going to swing blue. Vote your conscience. Vote your heart. Get out there and vote. Register to vote right now, and get more people to vote. I would like to talk about Jill Stein next time when we.
No problem.
Yeah, she's the new candidate. You've been listening to Stockton 360, special politics panoramic presentation with my good friend Mr. Details, Dustin Brakebill. Want to thank, of course, Details, but I also want to thank our engineer and producer, Mr. Donte Henry, station manager. I also want to thank our news director, Mario Jimenez. Dr. J. I want to thank our sponsors, Restore from Habitat and Humanity, the Hotel Furniture Liquidators. We also want to thank, who do we got to thank? Oh, Leaders Urbanwear. Thank you so much. You see on the live stream. Yes, hey, actually, we all happen to have it on today. What a jinx. Okay, yeah, right there. So, yeah, thank you, Leaders. And, also, hey, we want to thank Mountain Mike's Pizza for supporting us. And, of course, our founder, William E. Story. Thank you for your support as well. And you out there, all of our new members, all the people supporting this station in our campaign to build the FM transmitter, we appreciate you so much. You're listening to Stockton 360 on KXVS, the voice of Stockton, at thevoiceofstockton.org. Please stick around for more quality programming right here on KXVS. Signing off here at Stone Soup Studios on lovely Miracle Mile, Mr. Details, Dustin Brakebill, and Governor Don. We will check you out soon. Have a great one.